Okay, back with another review. We played Revenge of Shinobi and Shinobi 3, and these were both for the Sega Genesis. Um, I didn't have a Sega Genesis growing up, so most of the time, if I wanted to play a game for the Sega, it would be over at my friend's house, and I'd have to go over to their house and play, or they'd have to bring the system to my house and vice versa. If there was any, let's get this a little bit closer. If there was any games that they had that I wanted to play, I'd either have to play them at their house or I'd have to play them at my house using they'd have to bring the Sega. There were many times during the time where I would take my Super Nintendo up to their house, or I would take my Nintendo 64 to their house, or something like that. And everybody play on one system, play on another system. And it's kind of how I know some of the older gamers will know that's how it used to have to be done before. Whenever we done that, and but Shinobi's, like I said, one of those that I didn't get to play. I played it whenever I would go to their house if they had it, and I would play it. I got pretty good at the third one, but I haven't played it in a long time, so I don't really remember a whole lot of the places and things like that on it. Same thing with the Revenge of Shinobi. I'm not. I'm more familiar with Shinobi 3 than I am the Revenge of Shinobi, but the Revenge of Shinobi, I'm less familiar with. So basically, I played not even a stage worth of it, just because I'm not used to it. It's kind of a puzzle type thing. You have ninja stars on both games that you can throw. You have a limited amount. You can pick up more as you go along and you bust open boxes. You can pick up more ninja stars, but they're not. They're if you run out, you have to depend upon a short knife, like a short little knife. It's kind of like a blade. Um, if you if you get close enough to an enemy, you can do that too. And if you can finish stages without using the throwing stars, you'll get a bonus. Um, I'm not one of the people that can finish any of the stages um, without the throwing stars, because uh, it's just a little bit too difficult for me to do. Um, I am going to do a playthrough of Shinobi 3 at some point. I'm going to do a playthrough because I do have a code that allows me to um, have infinite throwing stars and also to not get killed. So that will be something I will do in the future. As for the Revenge of Shinobi, I don't know if I'm going to do a playthrough of that one or not yet. I don't want to say I will, and I don't want to say I won't, because I think that if I had enough practice and I had enough knew where things were and things like that, I would probably go through and do that. But I feel more confident in the ability that I can do a playthrough for number 3, but not a playthrough maybe for the Revenge. I don't care for the Revenge of Shinobi, and I guess it's because it's not familiar to me. And I mean, it's a good game, I'm sure, and it's got its own fan base, of course, as most of them do. And there are those that like this. I don't absolutely hate the game. I'm just not really familiar with it or what you do with it. So I'm not 100% familiar with where stuff is, how it works, and things of that nature. I'm just not familiar with it. I would like to be a little bit more familiar with it, but that would come with playing and becoming a little bit better at it. The third game I really like. I wasn't able to beat. Um, Still haven't beat it to this day, but I plan on beating it at some point. And that's one of those ones that I like it, and it's a good game. To me, the third one's a little bit more fluid on the movements and things like that. He responds a little bit better. On the second one, I find the gameplay, the movement and stuff to be a little choppy. And it's really, I don't think it really is, but I think that it just comes across that way to me. Um, but I do like number three a lot better than the Revenge. Um, like I said, they both have their fan followings and things of that nature, and they're both good games in their own right. I just didn't stream a whole lot. I streamed on number three. I streamed about a stage and a half. I just wanted to get some gameplay footage in there, and then we'll do playthroughs later of at least one of them, maybe both of them. The next two Fridays are the ideas were given to me by Roger Cox, who is also in the Amused Gamers as well. He does some of the videos. He's done some of the videos that you guys may have seen on there. He traditionally usually does NASCAR, wrestling, or fishing, and those are the three videos that he's posted. So I talked to him the other day about the Shinobi ones were for Roy. So I asked Roger the other day, I said, is there anything that you can think of that you would like to see me do after I get done with Roy's? And I had an idea from Roger before about doing the Donkey Kong games. Roger says he would like to see Batman. So we're going to do some gameplay of Batman next Friday, the original first Batman for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Again, this is one of those games. It's not going to be a playthrough. There may be a playthrough later. This is one of the toughest games on the NES. It's one I couldn't beat then, and I probably can't beat now. It's one that I've not played it very much because of its difficulty and things of that nature. And we'll see what we can do. The week afterwards, Roger had come up with the idea of Donkey Kong Jr., and Donkey Kong 3. Me and him had agreed upon that idea. So we'll do a little bit of gameplay footage here in 2 Fridays of the classic Donkey Kong games. Back on Shinobi, there are 4 different, on both of these 2 games, there are 4 different ninjutsus that you can use. I'm not really going to go through them all, but there are those. I think because I was on easy, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on this, if you're on easy, I think you get more lives, because I ended up with 9 lives at the beginning of both games. But I think if you move up the difficulty, I think they give you less lives. So it's like less chances to get through the levels. That's really all there is to the game, in my opinion. I mean, the bosses and like the artwork and the graphics and stuff like that for the games are really good, and I really like those. See, we got the first Shinobi on Nintendo, but it looked awful. It was hideous, and we didn't get another one. We did not get another one. Instead, we got Ninja Gaiden. Some people call it Ninja Gaiden. but we got that instead. And I think maybe some of the Sega players they got the same game, but I think they got a different port. And even the arcade's different than the Nintendo and the other ones. And there was 3 of those that spawned off on the Nintendo. And that's an interesting series too, because like I said, instead of Shinobi, we got those 3. The first one is one of the hardest games in Nintendo's library. I've never been able to beat it other than using a Game Genie. So it's very difficult. There's a couple of spots in it that are very, very hard to get through. The second one has elemental hazards in some of the stages, and wind and stuff can push you back and things of that nature. It's a little bit easier, but not by much. And then number 3 is it's supposed to be the hardest of the bunch. I can clear out about 4 or 5 stages before I start having a little bit of trouble. If I knew stuff was coming up and everything like that, that's the thing about like Shinobi and Ninja Gaiden. That's the thing. You have to have the memorization on what's on the map and what's coming up on the map. If you don't have the memorization down and you don't have it down pat, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in big trouble because, it's those games are, you have to know where the enemies are, you have to know where they spawn, you have to know where they're going to be at, what they're going to do, you have to know everything about them, and even the bosses. You have to know everything about them because that's the only way to get through any of those games. Any of the games I was just now talking about. So, but like I said, Roy, thanks for the Shinobi idea. Out of the games, I enjoy the third one the most. We'll probably at some point do a playthrough of the original Shinobi on the arcade, and we'll probably do Shadow Dancer on the arcade, and then we'll probably do Shinobi 3 on the Sega. I don't know if I'm going to do a Revenge of Shinobi one or not. I will see what I can find, and if it's something that can maybe be done. If it can be done, we'll do all of them. If it can't be done, still would have 3 out of 4. Like I said, we'll try to do the one for Roger next week on Batman, and then in 2 weeks' time we'll do the Donkey Kong ones, and we'll see what we can do on those. And so, like I said, that on the Shinobi games, I did not grow up having them. The only time, like I said, that I did get to play them was when I went over to my friend's house, and most of the time they didn't want to play Shinobi. Most of the time they wanted to play Streets of Rage or whatever the hot game was at that point, And we usually played something like Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, or Game Ground. I'll probably end up doing videos of Game Ground. I think I've already done all the Streets of Rage, and I think I've already done the Golden Axes. So I'll have to do Game Ground at some point for you guys. For those of you who don't know what Game Ground is, and I'll tell you, it's a Sega game that not very many people, I don't think, really know about. And I was introduced to it by a friend who wanted me to play it. It's a gauntlet style game, which is there's so many enemies per level. You pick out one of your characters that you have available to you. Each of them have their own their shots and their secondary weapons. The object is to either get all of your characters to the end to get them from the start to the exit, or to destroy all the enemies. If you see another little enemy, or another little thing on the ground that's not very big. You can pick it up and take it to the exit, and that'll give you a extra person to pick from when you go to pick your people. Of course, now once you get killed, you lose that person unless you can find the little one of them. Like I said, you can beat the stage, but there's a timer also. So you either have to get everybody to the end of the stage or kill all the enemies before the timer runs out. And as the stages go up, the enemies get a little bit progressively harder. And at the end of so many stages, you'll fight a boss. And you'll usually the bosses are way tougher than the enemies in the stage itself, which is rightful to say because that's how most early video games were. You'd have your underlings and then you'd have your big boss battle, and your big boss battle, the bosses almost always were worse than the enemies and things, which that's why the developers and programmers and things put them there instead of earlier on. Now some games will trick you and they'll have a mid boss and you think that's the actual boss, and it's not. And you use up all your special power ups and everything to find out that's not the real boss, and there's another one later on at the end of the stage. And then you feel kind of stupid. But like I said, we'll be trying to do some playthroughs. We may try to do some videos tomorrow of some different gameplay footage, and may try to get those out too. So until next time, we will see you later.